If you have ever wondered how a piece of land in Oxford goes from a proposal on paper to a development you can actually drive past, this episode is for you. I'm your host, Bill Rosenblatt, an attorney and real estate broker here in Oxford. On April 13, 2026, the Oxford Planning Commission heard an application, a request to subdivide a piece of property into 9 new home sites. We are going to use that single application as a case study. By the end of this episode, my goal is for you to have a better understanding of the development process in Oxford. Let us start with what was on the table. The Gary Subdivision is a request to take roughly 2.07 acres of land and split it into 9 residential lots. The property sits between Buchanan Avenue and Lincoln Avenue, just west of South 11th Street. It has frontage on 2 public streets, which means every lot would have direct street access, with one exception we will get to. 6 of the 9 lots would face Buchanan. 3 would face Lincoln. One of the Buchanan lots already has a house on it, the family home of the Applicants, which is a contributing structure in the South Lamar Historic District. That home would remain. The rest of the parcel is not part of the subdivision because the topography is too steep to develop. That is the scope. 2 acres, 9 lots, 1 existing home staying put, frontage on 2 streets. The one exception on streets, Buchanan Avenue currently does not extend past what would be Lot 8. To make Lot 9 buildable, the applicants would need to extend Buchanan to provide proper frontage. That is the project. Now let us look at the rules that govern it, because this is where the case study really begins. In Oxford, a single piece of property can sit under multiple regulatory layers at once. The Gary parcel sits under 4. Understanding all 4 is the heart of this episode. Layer 1, the underlying zoning. This land is zoned traditional suburban residential, TSR for short. TSR is a low-density residential category. The minimum lot size for TSR is 7,500 square feet. Every one of the 9 proposed lots clears that minimum. Layer 2, the Neighborhood Conservation Overlay, or NCO. An overlay does exactly what it sounds like. It sits on top of the base zoning and adds another set of standards designed to keep new development in line with the existing neighborhood. Lot widths, street frontages, site design. It is the city saying, even if your project meets the base zoning, it still has to fit the neighborhood it is going into. Layer 3, the South Lamar Historic District. Any house built on these lots would require a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission before any building permit could be issued. That is a separate review at a separate meeting. The Planning Commission does not weigh design. The Historic Preservation Commission does. Layer 4, tree protection. Right next door at 904 South 11th Street sits a tree designated as Historic Tree Number 10 on the City Register. Under Section 98 Docs 141 of the Municipal Code, no one can prune, dig under, or remove a historic tree without approval from the City Tree Board. Staff made tree board approval a condition of any future development on these lots. So before a single hammer swings, this property has to satisfy 4 separate frameworks: TSR for lot size, NCO for neighborhood compatibility, historic district for design, and tree protection for the historic tree on the adjacent property. Each framework has its own standards. Each is reviewed by a different body. That is how Oxford regulates land in its historic core. There is also infrastructure review, which is its own track entirely. The site is served by public water and sanitary sewer. No new utility extensions are proposed beyond standard service laterals to each lot. Stormwater is more involved. The applicants propose managing runoff with surface swales feeding an underground detention basin along the Lincoln Avenue frontage. The basin would discharge to an existing inlet and cross drain on Lincoln. Because that inlet and cross drain are aging, they would be replaced as part of the project. The City of Oxford also requested a drainage easement to facilitate replacement of an inlet on the west side of South 11th Street. At the time of the meeting, the engineering department had not formally approved the stormwater management plan. Staff noted in the report that engineering was awaiting a resubmission and did not anticipate issues that would prevent approval. That is one more layer of review running in parallel with the planning review. When the application reached the Planning Commission, 2 positions were laid out. The applicants argued that the project meets the underlying zoning, that the lots are sized appropriately for both TSR and NCO, that the trees were surveyed and a protection plan was filed, that stormwater would be engineered to city standards, and that infill on land already inside the city is consistent with comprehensive plan goals for low-density residential housing. City planning staff recommended approval. Citizens at the meeting raised two main concerns. The first was stormwater. Questions about whether the underground detention basin would handle runoff in practice, questions about downstream flow, questions about how 9 new roofs and driveways would affect drainage on streets that have flooded before. The second was character. The phrase used was neighborhood feel. The South Lamar District has older homes, mature canopy, and lots that grew in over decades rather than being platted at once. The concern was that 9 new houses delivered as a single subdivision was a different kind of change than the area had previously absorbed. This is where one provision of the code matters. The Land Development Code instructs the Commission to consider whether a development will be, quote, compatible and harmonious with surrounding properties, end quote, and whether it would cause a substantial negative impact on property values. That clause is part of every site plan review. It is also where the technical and the subjective meet. The Planning Commission voted to deny the Gary Subdivision. A denial at this stage does not end the matter. Applicants in Oxford can revise the proposal and bring it back. They can address concerns with new engineering, new design, or new public outreach. None of those next steps have been announced as of this recording. I am Bill Rosenblatt. This has been the Oxford Real Estate Report. The Oxford Real Estate Report is produced for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing in this episode is legal advice, real estate advice, or a substitute for consultation with a licensed professional. Listeners with questions about a specific property, development application, or transaction should speak with a qualified attorney, planner, or licensed real estate broker.